The basement of La Penta. It's WICR.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Vault. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe, and we are moving into just an insane amount of information. The NFL seems like it is just never leaving us in terms of popularity and interest. I mean, it's just the amount of news this weekend that we're going to have today has just been pure insanity, but it is a lot of fun to talk about. And Ndamukong kind of headlining it all with the $114 million deal with the Dolphins. Now, it's not going to be official until about tomorrow, but pretty much we all agree it's all out there. He's going to the Dolphins, and he's going to now be probably the highest paid defensive player with this contract, and it's pretty insane. I mean, for a player of his caliber, it's certainly, you understand it. The only thing I have to say, though, is when you look at the Dolphins, the last 3 seasons, they've made a lot of moves in free agency. I mean, last season it was Mike Wallace, then you had Brandon Albert. I mean, they've made a lot of changes and additions to their roster through free agency. But they have nothing to show for it. No playoff appearances. They've been stuck in that 8-8, 7-9 range, and it's all because of quarterback. Now, I love Ndamukong. I mean, he showed what a force he can be. But when you sign a player of that caliber, I really don't think, what impact is he going to make? Is this really going to change the Dolphins from being an 8-8 team to being a playoff contender? And I say no. I'm sorry. It's just no. If you don't have a quarterback in this league, you have nothing. And it doesn't matter how many good players you have. There are a lot of great rosters out there. Look at the Bengals roster. Now, they're a playoff team, but they've been consistently get your foot in the door, and then you're out as quickly as your foot was right in that door. And it just shows you. Look at the Indianapolis Colts. That roster is horrifying. That's a rebuilding roster. It has been for 3 years now. But they've continually gotten better every year. They're in the AFC Championship game this year. And it's all because of one thing. They have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback in this league, you've got nothing. It covers up so many holes that you have. It speeds up your process of getting in that playoff picture. Having one is just the ultimate solution to winning in the National Football League. Bringing in players like Ndamukong, of course, is smart. It's always good to improve your roster any way that you can. But he's not going to have as significant of an impact as you would want, because when you don't have a quarterback, you can't win anything. I mean, you go up and down the list right now. You and me could probably come up with all the teams we'll see in the playoffs tomorrow, just because of we understand who's going to be in there. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, all these high caliber quarterbacks. It's a quarterback league now. You just look at all, you can easily identify the top teams, and what do they all have in common? It's all quarterback. I mean, it's not a fluke, folks. It's a quarterback league. Quarterbacks are what win Super Bowls. It's what's been happening. This is the league now. Now, people will say, but what about Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson is a heck of a quarterback. I mean, I still don't think that there's a lot of people who understand it, but there's still people out there who don't give Russell Wilson enough credit. Of course, he's got a great situation. Because of his contract, they've been able to have a lot of depth. But overall, Russell Wilson's the reason they're winning a lot of these football games. He's the guy out there making a lot of these plays. And overall, I think it's kind of a combination of things. Depth is very important. I don't think defense is as much about having that one signature guy. I think defense now is about having a collective group of guys who understand how to play and can just kind of execute. Don't always have to have the most money players on defense, but you've got to have a solid, fundamentally sound defense who's not going to kill themselves with penalties. And I think it's just all about offense. It's about having a quarterback. It's about having good offensive personnel. And it's about just having a collectively sound defense who doesn't kill yourself on defense. Now, we've seen it so many times now. And so, like I said, it's going to help the Dolphins. There's no question about it. He's coming to an already pretty good defense. But just, I look at it and I just think with the Dolphins, it doesn't change my expectations for them at all. It really doesn't. Until they have a quarterback, I just don't understand it, and I don't know. I mean, there have been people who kind of thought that the Colts were kind of in that conversation, and I thought it would have been a solid. I think the smartest move for a team who was going to commit that much money to a Sue would have had to be a team that had a quarterback, because Sue is a kind of guy who really is just can really be that game changer that you need, and it's something the Colts really have room to improve at every position. They really do. On except for quarterback, the Colts have holes basically everywhere. And you have your quarterback in place in Indianapolis. So bringing in a guy who is the face of your defense, you have your quarterback. It would have been a very smart move. I mean, even for the Lions, I don't know if Matt Stafford has shown that he's the definitive, unarguable quarterback for that franchise, but he has shown a lot and a great deal of poise, and he has had a lot of success. So I don't know if I'd say that they don't have a quarterback. I think he is, and he's just got to continue to get better. But there is a lot to work with there, and I would say he is the identifiable guy who you can have a certain degree of confidence in. So even the Lions could have been a smart one, but I still think the Lions, this isn't a loss they can't overcome, just because Terrell Austin showed a lot of great things last year. I mean, he didn't just change that because of one player. It was a collectively disciplined effort. I mean, they stopped with the unnecessary penalties, killing themselves. They really it was a collectively great group. They really all played great against the run. I think the Lions, this isn't something they can't overcome. Of course, you lose a tremendous player, but again, it's an offensive league now. Having a quarterback is the number one thing that you need to make sure you have, and the Dolphins just do not have one. But I mean, it hasn't just been Ndamukong Suh. There's been so much news. I mean, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, where last week kind of a lot of people scratching their heads about LaShawn McCoy. They had a pretty active day yesterday. I mean, it seemed they re-signed Mark Sanchez. Byron Maxwell from Seattle. I mean, ESPN, I think Josina Anderson reported that he's pretty much said he is coming to the Eagles, and they signed him to a pretty nice chunk of change. I mean, look, he's from that Legion of Boom. He's a very good player, and I think all those guys in that Legion of Boom are just terrific. I mean, it seems like right now it's about 6 years, $25 million guaranteed for him. So he's got a pretty large chunk of change. And if there's one thing that we did see from the Eagles under Chip Kelly, it's that defense just wasn't very good. Their cornerbacks got shredded a lot more in year one than year two. But, I mean, when you listen to those NFL Live, whatever shows, you had people saying, the reason it was so bad in the first season was because it was kind of a 2-year plan. I mean, that's just a load of garbage. It's nothing about it's a plan. It just that defense wasn't very good. They didn't have great personnel, and you could just see it when they got shredded. And this is certainly a move that's interesting. I mean, look, that's a lot of money. A lot of people think they overpaid, and they probably did overpay in many regards. But Maxwell is a very good player, and there's no question he will improve that secondary. But again, right now, the Eagles, the only thing that we want to know about is what they're doing at quarterback. Obviously, Mark Sanchez is re-signed and most likely to be the backup. But what's going to happen with them? I mean, this morning you had a report that they were interested in trading for Colin Kaepernick. Trent Baalke comes out right away and says that there's no truth to that. And I don't know. I mean, the only time I'm not a big Colin Kaepernick guy. I'm just not. I don't think that he's going to be a consistent passer ever in this league and win a lot of games with his arm. And if you can't win games with your arm in this league, what are you doing playing quarterback? So I think that the only reason, the best he ever played was when their run game in San Francisco was at the top of its peer. When the running game is effective, that opens up the passing game. It makes Colin Kaepernick play at his best. Now, the running game wasn't as good this year, and it tremendously affected his passing. But now, if he did go to Philly, we understand how much of a run-heavy guy Chip Kelly is. I think he probably would have more success there. But I still don't buy into that much. I don't know if it's a fit, and I just don't see it happening. But then you go to Frank Gore. Frank Gore now coming over to Philadelphia. It's pretty much been guaranteed. I think it's like a 3-year deal. And that's an interesting one as well because Frank Gore, tremendous back over his career, but he's a guy with a ton of mileage on him. He's a guy who's up there in age. He's taken a lot of hits, and I just think we've seen a steady decline. This season certainly showed a steady decline for him, and I don't know what the move here, what the reason for it was. I mean, obviously, they wanted to get rid of McCoy to give them a lot of flexibility to sign more players, which was smart. I understood the McCoy trade, but now you bring in Frank Gore, and I just don't know what the expectations are. I mean, I don't think this guy can really be a workhorse at this point in his career. Obviously, Chip Kelly is going to split carries. He's not going to get the workload. But I just don't know how much Chip Kelly is going to want to use him. Obviously, you still have Darren Sproles there, which is going to help a lot. I mean, Frank Gore is a guy I like to have because he's a veteran. He is that big, bulky guy, and it's something that the Eagles didn't have in the running game is you look at McCoy and you look at Sproles, and they are kind of the same type of back. They didn't really have just a big back who can just put his head down and plow through people, and that's something Frank Gore does with the speed as well. So Frank Gore is a very versatile back, and it's going to be interesting to see. It's just, I think you got to be worried about father time with Frank Gore, just because for a running back, when you're around the age he is, 1 year, you look at 1 year, it's just almost overnight where they just don't have it anymore. And when you hit that 30-year-old mark and you've taken so many hits and ran for so long, you could just snap your fingers and it seems like overnight you're just not there anymore. And it's just the way that running backs last in the NFL today. But the Eagles, I'm sure, are going to continue to be in the news pretty big. I mean, then Jeremy Maclin, it seemed like now he's pretty much gone, and he'll be going back with Andy Reid in Kansas City. And again, it's something Kansas City needs. I mean, they had no touchdowns from wide receivers this season, and that's more of a reflection of their offensive style. Alex Smith is not a guy who's really going to beat you throwing the ball with two receivers. They're a very slow and methodical offense. They run the ball a lot, really keep everything in front of them, 10 yards, 15 yards here. Tight ends that work very well in that kind of way that they want to play. So, I mean, bringing a guy like Macklin will be interesting. It's certainly something I kind of understand. But we're just going to continue to get so many news. I mean, again, now this morning you have the Chargers signing Franklin from the Broncos. And Franklin's a very good offensive lineman, and it's something that San Diego really needs to commit to do is improving that offensive line, ensuring that Phillip Rivers has protection. Now, when we all kind of thought Phillip Rivers' career was going down and his career might have been kind of on the way out, it was because that offensive line was horrific. Phillip Rivers is very mechanical with the way he throws the football. He needs a little bit of time to kind of operate and get his throwing mechanics set up. So when he does have the time to throw and he's not anticipating pressure early, he's a guy who, and we've seen the resurgence the last 2 years. Mike McCoy has done a really good job building that line back up, but you did have instances last year when that line was kind of shaky. Phillip Rivers it was a nightmare. So bringing in a guy like this, improving the Chargers' offensive line once again is another very smart move. But, I mean, I wish I could stay here for an hour just talking about all this stuff because there's literally a million things to get to. I mean, you have Darrelle Revis, McCourty re-signed with the Patriots, so what does that mean for Revis? I mean, they're probably going to make a decision today to either pick up his contract or not, and they probably won't, but a lot of people think he will be back there. I sense that he will as well. I just think winning is kind of something that's so addictive. When you get that taste of it, there's nothing else that you really want. Yes, it would be nice to see him go back with the Jets, but I think right now he kind of understands there's really no one who's going to be a legitimate threat to the Patriots. The Dolphins, sure, they got better with Sue, but they don't have a quarterback. The Bills, sure, they got better. They have LaShawn McCoy. They have a new guy in Rex, but they don't have a quarterback. You look at the Jets, we don't know. I mean, certainly they're better at this point as well. They have a plan, but again, right now Geno Smith is their quarterback, and that's not putting the fear into anyone's eyes. Will they get Marcus Mariota now? That's the question. They get Marcus Mariota, I'm starting to be a little bit interested there, but just so much NFL news. As we continue to go through the day today, I'm sure there's going to be more information coming out. Certainly Darrelle Revis will be one of them, but it's just good because the NFL is just never going away now. There's never a time where its news is not relevant and we're not talking about it. So it's good if you're a football fan because the news just never seems to go away. But that is going to do it for this segment. We'll be back periodically throughout the day to break down. And if there is any breaking news, you can count at some point I will be back on to break it down. But everyone, thank you for listening, and you all have a wonderful day.